Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live trading session. Today is Thursday, and we are back with another one for you. So let me know how you're doing. Let me know where you are watching us from, and let's get into these charts and see if we can find some good setups. All right. We have Harris Jakar in the house. Hello. How you doing? Welcome back. Good to see you. So we had a massive run up yesterday in the equities. We were short biased at the beginning of the day, and fortunately, I didn't fight the tape and changed my bias and was able to catch a nice long trade, very nice long recovery. Let's try to see where that was. Put this on a 5-minute instead on the MES. Where is it? Let's close that. There we go. So right there. Let's get that analysis here. I had my review left. All right. So I have it pointed out here. Come on. All right. Yeah, so we shorted this this momentum here, and we were targeting the low of the box. When we pulled back, I added on the way down, thinking that we were going to get follow through. That did not happen. I said if we were able to reclaim VWAP, I would get out. So I got out around here. Probably should have gotten out break even, as I usually do, because I was being a little stubborn yesterday. But I was maybe hoping we could test VWAP and then pull back lower before reverting to the upside. But that did not happen. Had a little mishap here and then entered right here as we were curling back up for a classic opening range break. So basically this was the opening range. As we broke the range, I entered, risking the prior low, and then I exited right here. So basically, as we got back into this longer term trend, I exited and made a nice recovery. So this was yesterday. Today, we have been moving sideways. So we're going to see what we can find, what kind of setups we can find. If I switch over here to trading view for a second, let's put our volume profile. You can see that we are trading right above the point of control. We tested liquidity to the upside. We've tested liquidity to the downside. So this whole zone, is a sideways consolidation, at least on the ES for now. So we'll see what happens, and we'll determine our entries from there. But this 70, 74.80, 74.85, I would say more or less, which is where VWAP is going to be our inflection area, right? So this is where we're going to determine, okay, are we pushing to the upside, or are we pushing to the downside, or are we going to continue to move sideways, right? Let's just zoom out a little bit. Let's go back to our Black Arrow platform. Let's put it on a daily chart. So we opened above yesterday's close, which is great. We're holding above there. So if we're able to hold above throughout the day, that means we could probably see some follow through. Now, we need to remember that Mr. Trump is in China, so that's probably going to have an effect on the markets if some tweets come in, if some highlights come in. So we need to keep that in mind. There's no big economic data coming out. We had the retail sales today that came out somewhat positive. So the consensus was 0.5. Forecast was 0.4. It came a little bit over forecast, so that's pretty positive. Retail sales year over year 4.9 versus 4.2. So that means retail is selling. That is good for the markets. We'll take a look at the Russell in a few to see what it's doing, because that's going to affect small caps as well. So if we look now, if we zoom in and go on the hourly, let me put the hourly on the right. We can see that we have somewhat of a trend here, right? So zoom in this way, put it on the hourly. If I put the line chart as usual for it to appear clearer, we can see that we're holding this trend right here. So this is going to be our overnight trend, and this is going to be kind of our line in the sand for whether or not this trend is going to continue, right? And so we broke out of the trend, pulled back. So when we're continuing here, smaller time frame. Let's go back to 15 minutes. It's clearer here. We can see we are inside of this channel. So the idea is, okay, are we going to break out of this channel, retest, and go test lower levels, or are we going to be able to reclaim and stay inside of this and probably break to the upside? That is why that 75, I was talking about 75.85 more or less, this area is key for me. So that's going to be our inflection point. So let's just highlight this, 74.85. We'll keep that as our inflection area. Inflection lines up with the previous highs, the Asia highs. By the way, when you guys, if you're using Black Arrow and you're holding the Shift key or the Alt key, that allows you to, use the chart trading tools. The tricky thing that happens to me sometimes is that as I'm tracing lines, I hold Shift so that the line, you see, you hold Shift for the line to stay straight. What happens though is that if you're not careful, you can accidentally put a position on. It's happened to me a few times, so you need to be careful there. All right, we got Ram Effects in the house. Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Guys, let me know. Harris Jakar, what are you looking at today? I think you said you traded gold, right? Or was it the NQ? Let me know. Let me know what you're looking at. We're going to run through everything right now. I took a look at gold. I didn't see any great setups on gold, but we're going to check it out. And then oil was trading around 100, which I think is interesting as well. So we'll see. The ES so far is what we're looking at. So these are the edges of the trend. And then this is our mid-range here. We'll leave this as a dotted line. All right, so this is going to be a line in the sand. Possible setups would be a break below this level, a pullback below the inflection, and then a continuation lower, targeting prior levels of resistance. So we could put this as a potential resistance. Let me look at where the old point of control was. All right, point of control was at 74.70. So 74.70 right there. Okay, that would be an area where we could look to potentially exit. And then liquidity, top liquidity here was around these levels. So this is the range we're looking at for the ES. Let's switch over to the Nasdaq and see what we can find over there. Now the Nasdaq, let me get these out of the way. The Nasdaq is tapping into that support level that I had yesterday. And then our point of control for the Nasdaq is going to be around 29,560. So 29,560 is going to be inflection for us. And then liquidity is going to be around 29,680. So 29,680 is our upper level. Now we can see that the NQ is slightly more bearish. Yeah, I remember Harris Jakar said gold, and then RamFX is saying gold and NQ. All right, we're going to finish on NQ and switch over to gold to see what kind of setups we can find. Now, just zooming out a little bit on the NQ, there is an interesting formation I'm seeing right here in terms of a trend. So let's put the line chart. Let me get this trend line because I'm not using it anymore. This is key for me on the NQ. It's not showing on the ES as much. Whoa. Let's put this on the 15-minute. Like I usually tell you guys, I like to go to a line chart to be able to see what the trend is. And right now, this is what we're getting on the NQ, right? I think it removes the noise of the candles and you're able to see where the actual pivots are and where everything is. So on the NQ, I find this interesting because it's showing weakness, but it might be the asset fooling us, thinking it's going to push lower and just grabbing liquidity here and reverting to the upside. So we're going to keep that in mind. And then if we copy this, we could see that price is channeling downwards. So the idea is what? The idea is if this level that we had yesterday that acted as support here and here, right? And then acted as resistance here. So this is a pretty interesting level. We dipped, we resisted here, dipped down, pulled back up, dipped back in. And so 3 times this level has proven to be key, right? We're going to see. And then here we took off from there. I took an entry yesterday here and then exited a little bit higher. Didn't catch that whole follow through. That was on my personal account, but if we're able to push lower here, maybe wick down, fake out as we're pretending we're gonna continue to the downside and then reclaim this area, well, we could potentially go retest those highs for a move from 24.45 all the way to the 540s. So that's basically a 100-point move there. That would be very interesting, very constructive, and possibly if we're able to break out of this channel, right? And then pull back, test that inflection area for a little bit, and then continue to push up, then that means we're really, really bullish, right? And that would probably mean that shorts are getting squeezed, and we could potentially go and retest those highs. Let's see how much of a point move that would be. That's 200 points. So that's totally possible today, even this morning on the NQ, right? If we're able to continue to push higher. We're seeing a little bit of a sell-off. It might be some profit taking going on here. So we're going to keep an open mind and trade this either way. But our inflection area is around this this level here. This is a really, really nice intersection here that we have between the trend and the price pushing lower. So we want to see definitely what happens here. Let me look at the lower time frames. I'm tempted to actually scale in right now, even before the open, because this area is looking really, really interesting. Look at that clean formation that we have here moving lower. This is very, very clean. I'm keen to take a position here, guys. Man, this is looking very, very interesting, very constructive. We could probably, the only concerning thing for me is that we might get a liquidity grab. So we might get like a wicking down action. But I'm really tempted to enter here. You know what? Oh man, what's going on? Oh, wrong account. Okay. All right, we're gonna wait. I'm gonna take this as a sign to wait. But I really like, actually, you know what? I'm gonna take that position on my personal account. I'm gonna wait for the live one, but I'm gonna take this on the brokerage account. And start scaling in. So I'm going to put a buy order around the 460s around here, and then we'll see what happens. All right. RamFX saying, should we use VWAP or VWAP band? You mean when you say the band, you're talking about, let's just switch to this. Okay, so when you say the band, you're talking about having VWAP. So basically my VWAP is in orange right here. And when you say the band, you're probably talking about, you know, the upper band here, lower band, and then let's put the fill. Now, should you use it is going to be totally personal. Now, the advantage here is you could see standard deviations. So when you use the band, you have the main VWAP line, so the volume weighted average price here, and then it tells you, okay, this is one standard deviation above, this is one standard deviation below, and you could actually add multiple levels. So we could add number 2. Here, which would tell you, okay, this is two standard deviations above and 2 standard deviations below. Should you use it? That's going to be up to you. Now, can you use it? Sure, you could definitely use it. I don't really use them because I determine my take profits in another manner. I use the opening range to determine where I take profit, and I'll show you live today how I do that. With, you know, boxes, and then I have an indicator that I built, for example, here. So this is my indicator for the opening range. You see here the breakout. I would have taken the entry, and then my levels here in green are where I take profit. But that is determined based on how much of a displacement we had on the open. So if we displaced yesterday, the displacement was, it tells me here, where is it? Well, it's not telling me now, but that was about, yesterday was about, so that's the ES. It was about 30 points. Then it's looking for, you know, oh, no, it wasn't 30 points. It was smaller. It was 20 points. Yeah, 20 points. And then it's using that to determine the higher take profit. So what we can see is, okay, if you were using VWAP yesterday, let's add let me take this out. VWAP is in orange here. Let's see what VWAP would have showed you. Upper band and then upper band 2. So if you're using VWAP to get out of your trades yesterday, it would have told you, okay, you need to get out here, and then you need to get out on that impulse here, right? And I mean, depending on your rules, meaning if you reach that level, you get out. So to me, it's not very effective for getting out of positions. What I do like VWAP for is to tell me, okay, how bullish or bearish are we? So I use it as an inflection area to let me know, okay, are we more bullish, meaning are we trading above VWAP? So are we trading above the average price that is being paid for the asset, or are we trading below that average price? So I use it as a line in the sand to kind of tell me, okay, where are we right now in the trading range? So that's the NQ. Same thing here. So yeah, that's how I use the VWAP. It's totally up to you. I only need that single line as a line in the sand. So for example, right here, I'm saying, okay, on average, we are more bearish, meaning the price is below what the market would consider to be fair value. And then I can add another layer on top of that. That would be the volume profile. And if I look at the volume profile, well, it aligns with the VWAP. It's telling me, okay, fair value, so point of control where the most volume was traded is right here around 29,560, and we are trading below fair value. We're capturing that possible liquidity here. Another cool thing you can look at VWAP is where you get that break right here. I don't know if you see it, but right here where you get that break, that we could call that 2-day VWAP, but that is very often a target for price to go to, where we get that break from yesterday. So if we push lower, that is a possible target if we wick down, right? So we're gonna see if that's gonna prove to be true today or not. As a matter of fact, let's add a line there, right? And let's call it possible target. And then let me show you a cool trick when I use trend lines. So when I use trend lines, that's what I use to determine my profits. So if we measure, right, from here to here, what we can do is say, okay, what is one standard deviation below? So a range that's similar to this range. Well, you see how accurate it is. It's almost touching the profit. And then what I'll do is I'll take the range and move it lower, which means that price, if we break lower, price could go and test this area depending on how soon or how late it does, right? And then we can do the same thing for the upside. So we take that same range, put it up there, and then we're looking if we're breaking higher, then, you know, maybe we test that area, we break above, and then we go test this. So this could be a possible target. And that is how I kind of determine where to get in or out, because price will usually move 1 or 2 standard deviations above before retracing. So there you go. I hope that answers your question, Ram Effects. That's a very long-winded answer, but that's kind of how I determine where to get in, where to get out, etc. I'm going to leave these here because these are 2 possible scenarios we could have, and we'll see what happens. The trade is looking good so far on the NQ. You see, that's why I wanted to enter here, because I felt that we could break out. But I'll wait for the trade on the Black Arrow platform. But full disclosure, on my personal account, I am long. Let me tell you, let's put this here. I am long at 29,472. So 29. Oh, come on. Let's put this 29,472 right here. And then I had a wide stop of 50 points right here. All right, so possible target is right around this this inflection zone here. So I'm risking 50 to make about 100. And then I'll adjust based on, you know, how we trade. So we'll wait to see. We're 7 minutes from the open. We've looked at all the indices. Now we're going to look at gold. Let's switch over to gold. IG 6207. How you doing? I'm in the NQ on my personal account at 29,471. But it's a risky trade because we might wick down. That's why I didn't take it here on Black Arrow. I'm taking it on my personal platform. I mean, my personal brokerage account. And we'll see what happens after the open. How can we connect Fivers using TradingView? Okay, we cannot connect Black Arrow to TradingView. What I'm doing right now is switching platforms. So I use TradingView to do a lot of my chart analysis, and you know, because the things don't disappear, we don't we have the continuous contracts on TradingView, and you know, I have so much information there that so many things that I'm looking at, I do all my analysis on TradingView. But I will use Black Arrow to trade the you know, Fivers accounts that I have and to trade live. IG6207, just know that this is a risky trade. That's why I didn't take it on this the Black Arrow platform, because we might wick down before we move up, right? This might be a fake break to the upside. We move lower, capture liquidity, and then go test the higher levels, right? So I've taken this with very small size. I have a wide stop of 50 points. So this is a risky trade. We're about to open in about 4 or 5 minutes. So just keep that in mind. Be patient. We're probably going to see better setups once we open, and I'll take these live if I could see them. All right. Don't don't necessarily follow my trades. Sometimes it makes, do your own analysis, take into account what I'm saying, but don't just take a trade because I took it, because my stats say I'm wrong 50% of the time. I'm wrong half the time. So the only reason I'm profitable is because my win rate is 50%, but usually I get 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 risk reward on my trades, right? So it's okay for me to be 50-50. Justin, what's up? What's up? Man, every day you have a new name for me. What's up? We're gonna get that t-shirt done soon. And we're gonna have our boxes soon once we open. All right, let's check out gold. Let's look at gold here first. Kind of same pattern as the indexes. We're really moving sideways. We could see that on gold right now. This is the gold futures. We are moving sideways, right? So no setup for me on gold since yesterday, as a matter of fact, because this is just, for me, crappy price action. I know Justin took a trade yesterday. He said around 46.95. You took that short, I think. So that was a quick move down as we were shorting on the ES. We got a 17-point move. So if you were able to capture that, good. And then we got the reversal. But so far, no setup for me. We are watching. There's this key. So we both yesterday 2 times this area was an area of liquidity, right? So this is going to be an interesting level to watch. So are we able to push lower, capture liquidity here, maybe move up, retest, form a lower high, and then push up to the upside? That's a possible setup we might look for on gold. And then if we don't do that, if we're able to hold and push higher, then that green line, that trend that I have here, could be a decisive break to the upside. Because if we look longer term, right? Let's zoom out on the daily. Let's do a top-down analysis. If we are able to hold the line, then that would mean that, okay, let me get these out of the way. Then that would mean that we're able to just finally break this trend line and go test these upper levels here, right? So what did we do? We pushed lower, found levels, pushed higher, pulled back to the 50%. So the next logical move is either going to test this level, right, where we held, or to just break out, because this was just a little bit of distribution and we're able to oscillate higher. We're going to see if that's going to happen today or if it's going to happen in the next coming days or weeks. But this is kind of a consolidation area. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the price action here, especially not intraday on gold, right? Gold has a tendency to move. I mean, look at the hourly chart. This looks like a barcode. You see, this looks like a barcode right now. I personally, you'll have many assets. And by the way, we've just opened. I'm going to switch the Nasdaq in a few. But there are many assets you could trade, right? Many futures you could trade. Why pick the hardest one to trade? I know everybody loves gold and everybody loves trading gold, but to me, gold doesn't give you easy trades. It makes you struggle a lot. And then you finally get, a great setup, maybe like this one. But you'll struggle a lot before getting that, and you'll, at least me, I'll get stopped out a lot before finally finding something that makes sense. So I'd rather wait for gold to get to extremes before I take a trade on it. But hey, that's just me. Switch back over to the Nasdaq. All right, we're holding. The 29 400s are trying to hold. Buyers trying to push it higher. We'll see. This is probably a fake out. And if it is, I'll get stopped out on the other account. But it looked like it wanted to break higher. All right, let me just open my chart side by side so we could see. All right, we're pushing. Keep one specifically for you. Nice. I'll keep a shirt for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're holding the line here. So it looks like this entry is going to be a good one for me on the other account. Let's see if we could find one on this one. I kind of want to take a stab at it because so we don't let it run away from us. Let me just look at something here. Lower time frames. All right, I just added to the other position. We are taking off. If we do confirm, then we just need a pullback. Well, that's a nice move right there. About 60, 61 points. So we want to see what happens once we get to VWAP, once we get around that inflection zone. Position is still around 29,472. Look at the ES. ES is moving. ES is trying to hold as well. Maybe we take this on the ES. I think there's still time for us to take it on the ES here. ES is a lot less risky. See, that's a clean break. Let me look at this on a 5-minute. Ah, come on. All right, we'll wait for the 5 minutes to go, and then we'll try to maybe catch an entry a little bit lower. Maybe somewhere around here. So let's wait. Justin saying dollar wants to sprint. Man, the ES, even the ES is not going to wait for us. NQ is really taking off. So we'll give this about a minute on the ES and see if we can get, you know, an entry right around this area. Sorry, right lower, hopefully here. Hopefully we could open right next to I'll just put a limit order here. One thing to keep in mind though, while on the ES we're trading above the inflection point, above the point of control, on the Nasdaq, on the NQ, we were below, and we're heading into that area now. So that might be an area of consolidation coming up right now. We'll see. And if that entry gets triggered, you know what? I want to take it lower. Let's just wait because we might get a pullback. Hopefully. Otherwise, it's going to run away from me. All right, new candle open. Let's see if we get a pullback. What kind of pullback we get. Let's look at the Nasdaq. Might have to mark it in that position. Oh, I forgot to look at the dollar. All right. This is the area where we wanted to get it. Put it a little bit higher, right around that wick. Let's see if we could get it. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. All right. And then we'll pop. If it goes lower, we'll add to the position. Just gonna wait to see the behavior because it might be a false breakout as well. But this is looking very clean. Like this pullback, this is what convinced me. You see how we pulled back into the range here, and then we broke out. This is super clean. Breakout, pull back, retest, move higher. I am in both the ES and the Nasdaq. So I'm live here on the ES. Just took a first entry around 74.88. And then on the Nasdaq, I am in at, let's look at that. Nasdaq, I'm in at 29,472. And I took some profit on the Nasdaq already. Just holding the rest. All right, we might want to add to this one. It's looking constructive. Get me in, baby, get me in. And I'm going to have to mark it in. Give me a good price. Give me a good price. This is taking off. Let's put a little bit higher. Get it, get it, get it. You see when price is running away from you like that in a long, that's a good sign. Let's put it a little bit higher. Get it. And it's running away from us. All right, so we're in one so far. And we don't have a take profit yet. I'm just gonna wait for the range to build and to determine where I take profit. For now, I just want to build a position. But yeah, this was a key area, nice area to scale into. All right, the Nasdaq now has reached an area of contention. So let's just switch to the NQ. So like I told you, I took the first profit out here. This is a 2-to-1 on my personal brokerage. We are aiming towards the 3-to-1 here. My stop is at break even. So we're just taking off on the NQ right now. You guys can expect a pretty good pullback once we reach that area of contention. So here, this is where I expect a pullback. Let's put this as a dotted line. So I'm expecting a pullback in this area right here. Let me show you. Right as we reach this area, if shorts don't get squeezed, of course, right as we reach here, this previous area where we tested resistance, I expect the first pullback. We could just pull back like that and then continue to push higher. And then the real resistance, I think, will probably come around the 29,674s if we can reach that, right? So we'll see what happens. Dollar looking strong. Let's look at oil real quickly. All right, so oil is looking to push higher. So as oil pushes higher, we might get a possible pullback here. And our trade on the ES is looking good. This is a possible area. If you were in, you could possibly consider taking profits because you would be about 10 points in profit right now. So however, $5 a point if you're trading the MES, $50 a point if you're trading the micros. So, that would be a pretty good trade, pretty good area where you could possibly get out and take some profits. We're 15 minutes gonna open. I mean, I'm not taking profits yet because I think we might squeeze up. So we're pushing higher on the ES. Stop is below the opening range, but this stop is because I'm expecting somewhat of a pullback, and I want to see if I could add possibly over here or maybe even over here, depending on how deep the pullback is. So we'll see. If it takes off, then it takes off. It's fine. But looking good here. All right. Looks like we might be getting the pullback in a bit. So let's see. Oil is pushing higher, though. That means that equities are going to pull back. And oil looks like it might want to break out. Let me switch to oil to show you guys. So this is oil, right? And we've had a very constructive pattern here. So if this breaks, then equities are going to pull back significantly. So if oil decides, crude oil decides to just break out of there and continue higher, then we're going to get somewhat of a pullback on equities. What we could hope for is, okay, oil breaks out, equities pulls back, and then as oil is pulling back to retest, then we get the second leg of the push up in equities. The better thing would be this level acts as resistance once again. We're not able to break from here, and we pull back again to maybe retest those lows on CL. And yeah, we just want to keep that in mind. Yep, we're seeing some resistance here on the ES. So definitely reaching that area where we might consider taking profits. Let's look at the NQ. All right, almost 3-1. You look at my position here. All right, I'm a good almost 3R in profit right there. So this is looking good. But this is the area where we might see the pullback. So, all right, we're about 10 points in profit. Instead of, I'm just going to close this here and then re-enter a new position once we pull back. All right, so one win so far. Well, one win on the ES, one win on the NQ. Where we've entered the resistance. Let's just see how we behave from there and what setups we can find. We have our opening range. We were able to catch that first push. So, well, half of it, starting from here to here. If we put the executions, we got in here and exited here. Now, this might blast to the upside, but because of how oil looks, I'm being cautious. Well, we're taking off. I still have the NQ position on, by the way. We blasted here. Let's see, NQ. NQ looking good. Let me know, guys. Did you catch any trades? Were you able to catch anything? All right, we've had our, so let me get this out of the way. I'm about to close the NQ position, just waiting for it to tap a little bit higher. I just took some more profits. All right, I'm holding the rest. Just one contract left, a small runner, in case we just take off. So first 15 minutes, let's draw some boxes for Justin. Whoa. Let me switch to another layout. Let's put my pink opening range box right here. This is the opening range. This is the 50% of the opening range. Or is it? Let's put this in pink as well. So we'll say this is our opening range right here, 50% right here. So now that we've broken out of the range, this is a very clean breakout. We want to see, how do we behave around here, right? Possible targets. And for who was it that was asking me how I determine my targets? Was it? Yeah, it was RamFX. So RamFX, how do I determine targets? And I'm still holding the runner. So I took some profits here, took some profits here at the height of the opening range because that level aligned with the Asian session high right here, right? So once we reached here, we're testing those prior highs. I usually take a little bit before at that pocket of resistance. So now we're just below the 50%, the second 50% of the box. So two targets you might have once we re-enter, of course, if we re-enter, are here. So right here. And here. So for example, we got the breakout, and let's say we get a deep pullback. We pull back all the way here to the 50% area, and then we're able to find buyers again. Well, you have three targets. If you get in here, target number one would be around the high of the range, right? Maybe you pull back again here. Target number two is the 50% area here. And then target number three would be the height of this range. And if we measure, because we need to see if it's realistic, we get 300 points on the Nasdaq. We know that on average these days, the average true range of the NQ is about 350 points. So this is realistic. We're still blasting to the upside, so we want to see what happens here. We want to see what happens in this area. And we want to see what happens in this area. All right, I got Harris Jakar saying you got to trade on gold. Awesome. I'm gonna look at gold in a second. And then RamFX saying, what is your entry criteria for opening range? So my opening range is usually the first 15 minutes. Today I took the entry because I was not taking an opening range setup. I was taking my favorite setup, which is a break of trend, so a trend reversal. Basically, we had the trend here, Let me just go to this. We had a longer term trend. I showed you. Longer term trend here going down, right? And then we had the shorter term trend right here. So this was our shorter term trend. And don't pay attention to this wick because that was just news. And then we're breaking out of the trend. So this break of trend is an ideal setup for me. Why? Because one, we're breaking out of the trend. Two, we're aligning with that blue box that I have here that was the low volume node on the volume profile, right? Then we pulled back into this level. So that's why I was like, man, this looks super clean. Once we enter here, risking the prior low, right? What you want to do next is have a couple targets in mind. Target number one will usually be, if it's not very strong, it will be the prior high, right? So that's where I started scaling out, and it aligned with my inflection point. And you can see we got a red candle here. That means there was a little bit of profit taking here. And then the second one was at the previous areas of resistance, which were here, right here, and then right here where I had my blue line. So now that we've reached this, you see how we're pulling back because that is expected. Now, we could have anticipated and entered a short here, but I don't want to fight the trend just yet, right? Because this is pretty strong. Now, what is my entry criteria for the opening range breakout? There's many ways to go about this. I usually prefer to not take the breakout directly and take the entry after the pullback. So what is the criteria? I need to see, first of all, the range form the first 15 minutes. Once that range forms, I have the 50% area that I put here. And I want to see, okay, are we trading above this? If we're trading above this area here, so basically we're trading the way we're trading now, we're trading above. I'm looking for longs. What kind of longs am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for pullbacks above the range. So for example, let's just put this here. I'm looking for pullbacks above the range to continue higher, or deeper pullbacks into this 50% area of the range. So, 50% discount to continue higher, right? Now, how do I determine when I get in? I'm looking at the price action and I'm looking at the volume. And what I'm looking for, hopefully, is a push lower, right? With a flush, so with an increase in volume, and then another, so basically a red print with a wick, and then a flood of volume to the right side. And as we get that push of volume with a green print and a candle that's engulfing the prior candle, that's usually when I'm getting in, right? So we'll see what happens here. And ideally, we want the pullback to happen on a decrease of volume. So far, this is looking so far pretty good for an entry. The only thing that's concerning is we've had a huge and fast move to the upside. So we might need this to digest for a while before we're able to get in. And then we're going to have that 10 o'clock candle open in a few. So we want to see what happens there. Now, for anybody that uses fair value gaps, we have a fair value gap on the 5-minute here. Let's look at the 15. That's pretty big rejection here. So we want to see a deeper pullback. I hope that answers your question, but usually I'm looking for a 15-minute orb live. If I'm not trading live, I'll probably wait for a longer opening range, but it's usually between 15 to 30. And that's what I'm looking for, because I'm looking to catch trends. I'm not looking for like a 10-point, 20-point win. I'm looking for at least 75, 100 plus points because longer term, these are setups I want to trade with a lot of size, and you can't, especially if you're trading the live markets, you won't get great executions if you're trading too fast. I don't know if you guys trade the live markets as well as prop, but the executions are not as fast when you're trading live, depending on how much size you're taking, by the way. And then ideally, the best setups are when we can, pull back to an area of contention, push higher, take a liquidity grab, or maybe form a higher low and then go up. That's your classic W pattern. So we would ideally get a flush, a push higher, a fake out, pull back, and then everybody thinks it's going to continue, and then the flood of buyers rushes back in. Let's look at the ES, and then I'll take a look at gold in a few. All right, so we got out of the ES. Man, that was a possible entry right over VWAP here. All right, we didn't catch that one because we've been blabbering too much, but I want to wait. Maybe we get a retest lower, so we'll see. But that was a nice little entry, possible entry, right above this previous pivot here, and I think that's where buyers re-entered. Sorry. But I'd like to catch a trade on the NQ live for you guys. We caught an ES trade, that's good, but I'd prefer to catch an NQ. NQ is my asset. I like trading the NQ. So let's see if we could catch it. I don't know if two buys here. If two buys here, I'd like to catch an NQ trade with you, for you. Where's the NQ? And then we're gonna look at other stuff. That is oil. So oil is holding below that resistance area here, which is good for us. And oil is looking to push lower, so that's bullish for us. Let's take a look at the dollar pulling back. I didn't look at equities yet. I'm going to take a look at that in a few. Hello, Hector. You said, what is ES on Trade Locker? I don't understand the question. ES is the S&P 500 futures contract. All right, looking good here. By the way, if we remain above this 50% area, that's also a good sign. That's also bullish for us. Let me add a VWAP to here to this. All right, just so we can see where we're at. Okay, we're heading into the point of control. You got it? All right. Trade Locker. I don't know what Trade Locker is. You got me curious right now. Trade Locker. Oh, Forex trading platform. Yeah, that would be the S&P 500. Trade Locker. Nice. I didn't know that. GC pulling back. So remember we talked about this level this morning, and we dipped into it and pushed higher. This is gold GC. So what you want to see here for gold at least is, okay, can we form a lower high? So as we head back into, we saw buyers push. Can we form a lower high and push higher, right? So you would wait, and if you're trading the 5-minute, for example, you would wait for an engulfing candle to get in. But that's my issue with gold, is that gold will give you so many fake outs. Like you'll think it's starting to work, but it doesn't, and then it pulls back again and then moves sideways before finally pushing up like an hour after. That's my issue with gold. But hey, that's just me. It's usually cleaner on the equity side. So NQ, oh, we're seeing buyers. Okay, that's exactly what I want to see. You see what I was talking about? As a matter of fact, we might just enter. Give me a sec. Let me check something before I enter. $10.01. Okay, this is looking constructive. We're going to risk a little bit more on this. This might be the fake. All right. I didn't catch it in time. We're going to wait a little bit. I want to see, man, this might run away from me. But what I want to wait is I want to make sure that this is not. So here's the concern. The concern is we got a nice little trend going here, right? But we have a wick and we're at this area here. So I want to make sure that this is not a fake out. And we still have time to enter. We don't need to panic. This might be a fake out where we think we're breaking higher, but we actually need to pull back again and retest VWAP before we break to the upside. So I'm going to wait a little bit before I take the entry. Well, yeah, that's what I thought. So let's see. No, I got out of the ES a while ago. So ES trade, we got in, we made about 10 points, and then we got out. We just opened the hourly, so we're going to give this a little bit of time before we enter. It's looking nice, though. It's looking nice. Buyers are aggressive. You see that increase in volume on the push lower? That was good. That was nice for us. Let's see. That's exactly why I'm waiting, because we pushed higher and we might have to go and test lower. So I talked about the 50% of the opening range. We are there. So maybe, because buyers stepped in here, so we want to see, okay, are we able to hold above this, or do we actually need to go and test prior liquidity levels lower? So we're waiting, and I might have to take a late entry, but I got out of the ES. Hector, you're saying on oil? What are you talking about regarding oil? Let me pull up oil. By the way, every time you see me look into the sky, I'm looking at my other screen. Oil is looking to push higher. That's why we're seeing that pullback. Oil is looking to break out. I might take my first oil trade live, by the way. Let's look at oil. Oil. MCL. So oil, this is the trend line we highlighted. So you see how we're trying to break from here? We tried to break, got rejected. As we got that rejection, we had that push up on the equities. We're retesting here. So are we going to just continue to push lower or higher? This is an interesting area of contention here. Let me just look at the Nasdaq again. I really wanted a Nasdaq trade. All right, this is looking decent for an entry. Let's see. It's fighting. Let's wait. Oil really looks like it wants to break out. Is there news? Let me check. NQ. Remember to like the stream, guys. Like and subscribe if you're not. Riyadh. All right, so no real news right now. All right, let's see if we need to go test lower. Let's look at oil. Oil trying to break out, but we might be forming this, or we might actually break out. Looking very constructive here on oil. We're at 100. This is a pocket of resistance here. Let me think for a second. Do I want to take this oil trade or not? So sometimes you see multiple setups, and the Nasdaq is looking good for a setup. I mean, for an entry. The ES is looking decent as well, and oil is looking decent as well. And they're all looking along. I mean, they're all looking like I might be able to take an entry on them. So I want to see, am I getting fooled by oil or the equities? How about you guys pick? Which asset should I take the trade? Oh man, this is a breakout. I think this is a breakout. We're going to take the breakout on oil. I'm in oil. Let's see if we get it. First oil trade live. And then let's look at the, while this is breaking out, that means we could short the equities. Where NQ. We're going to short the equities. So we're trading below that 50%. And I might be wrong. This might be a fake out, but we'll see. All right, so I'm long oil, short equities, short the NQ. This is where I should be long, by the way. So strong opinion, lightly held. I might flip my bias, but oil is looking so bullish right now that I don't want to long the equities. They're trying to hold it. The buyers are really trying to push this higher. They're trying to hold this line. So let's look at oil again. Yeah, I'm going to leave this oil trade on, and then we're going to monitor the equities. There's the NQ. So this, I might flip my bias on it. I just want to see, can we get that flush? Are we going to go test this? Buyers are really trying to step in. This is where I should be buying. Ugh. All right, guys, I'm experiencing real emotions live here with you guys. Everything in my body is telling me I should be long this this trade, but because oil was pushing higher, the logical thing is oil is pushing higher, equities should move lower. I'm going to put a tight stop on this because if it blasts, it's going to blast fast. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a tight stop, and then we're going to add a buy stop so that if it blasts to the upside, it will take us in. But if not, if it flushes to the downside like I want it to, and my target is around this area here, come on, flush to the downside, flush to the downside. Man, the buyers are really trying to hold this. Look at the order flow. Yep, buyers are stepping in. Yep. All right, we're going to flip the bias. Come on, come on, come on. Push lower. 50 points. Is this a fake out or is this the trade, the long we've been looking for? This should have been the long entry. The only reason I'm not long here is because I see oil pushing higher. So I don't know. I don't trust this one. No, I'm long oil. Okay, Atharva is saying, what should I add in my ORB to make it better and more accurate? For now, I have a fixed percentage. What should you add to your ORB to make it better and more accurate? All right, we're going to look at that in a sec. All right, I definitely have to flip my bias here. So we're stopping out and we're immediately turning long. If it stops us out, of course. This is the long entry we were looking for. Just oil had me doubting. Hey, Tuba's in the house. What did you miss? You bought Nasdaq right before the open and went well. Yeah, that was a nice long. We caught that long on the ES. What does that look like on the 15? Let's give it a little bit more room. If it blasts through, we'll be immediately stopped out and we'll be flipped long. So, but if not, if it's not a real breakout, then we catch the short. I'm really keeping an open mind on this. But I'm not short oil, I'm long oil. So CL trade, let me look at it for you guys. So we're long oil from here because this is looking like a breakout where we might possibly test one of these levels. So because oil is looking long, that's why I'm short on the equities, right? I was looking for a possible flush to the downside. If we don't get that, if we blast to the upside, then we immediately flip long. Oh man, my trade didn't trigger. There's the long. gonna take another contract. All right. Risking the prior lows. Let's see if we get it. Okay, let's try to answer Atharva's question. What should you add to your ORB to make it better and more accurate? We're going to switch to the ES maybe. And target would be around here. Let's see if we can blast through, if we get some follow through on this trade. I don't fully understand the question, but I'm going to do my best to answer it. Let's look at the ES and answer from here. Okay, so I don't know how you trade the opening range breakout, but for example, looking at the ES here, the way I go about it is I mark my opening range. So the first 15 minutes, we could switch to a 15-minute time frame, and then this is our opening range. So the high here is marked and the low here is marked. Now, switch to 1 minute. What you want to take a look at is, of course, you're looking at prior levels, you're forming your bias and everything. You're looking at everything that could intersect and confirm or deny your bias. And then I usually mark the 50% of the range, which is that yellow line here, right? So how are you entering? Then you can continue the range all throughout here. So what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for possible entries in 3 ways, essentially. If you're long biased, you're looking for, okay, can we break out of the range? And then you take the breakout. You immediately take that breakout. That is not necessarily the best entry. Why? Well, look at what would have happened here. You would have taken the breakout maybe on that green print here, or maybe on that wick, and then you're immediately pulling back. So the idea is it's better for you to wait for pullbacks to enter. And there are 3 pullbacks you can look for when trading the opening range. First thing is you wait for you to decisively break out of the range, pull back to the top of the range, and enter there. So that's entry model number 1. Entry model number 2 is you, like happened today, it tests the height of the range and then goes back to the 50% of the range, and that's where you're looking for entries. So we got a clean setup here on the ES. You would have entered here, and you're always risking the prior low. So you're entering here, and then you are pushing up. Now, that's the second entry model. The third entry model is you're pushing you form the range, and then you're pulling back to the initial low. Now, here's what you need to have in mind is if you're the more you pull back, the less bullish is the asset. So if it blasts through the range and pulls back only to the height of the range to continue higher, the more bullish it is. If it, on the contrary, pulls back to the middle of the range, it's still bullish, but not as bullish as before. That means buyers are waiting. And then if it pulls back to the low of the range, then it's a little bit less bullish. So you need to keep that in mind for your targets. Now, once you get your entry, we need to know, and your stop, of course, you're risking the prior low. You need to determine, okay, where do I take profit? So usually what I'll do is that, okay, if we've had the range form here, then it's highly likely that we might form another, we're able to displace an equal amount there. So for example, we displaced 20 points, 19, 20 points here. Well, it's possible we displace another 19, 20 points to the upside. And what you're doing, let's look at our Nasdaq trade, and I'll go back to that. I just want to make sure my take profits are good. Okay, so the ES is looking a little bit more bullish than the Nasdaq, but the long is looking good so far. So let's just see if we can capture liquidity to the upside here and take our first take profit, be about 85. It would be great if we could capture exactly 100 points. I like to capture 100 points. All right, 99.75. That'll be our first take profit. Hopefully we could reach that. And then continue for the second one. That would be here or higher. So let's see if we can get that. So this is actually a perfect setup for the opening range. I was short biased here, but my entry probably should have been a little bit lower. We're seeing resistance here, which is normal. I just want to see if we can blast to the upside. Oil is still pushing higher though. Yeah, so going back to the explanation, back to the ES. So now once you're in the trade, your targets, so we pushed high, pulled back, entered the trade here. Your targets are where? Well, first target would be, if you entered here, first target is the previous area of resistance, so right here. The second target is, okay, can we oscillate to about 50% of the range? So you can put your TP a little bit before because people will anticipate that and get out before. And then sometimes you pull back and then you can maybe reach the upper end of the range, right? So these are essentially the targets you're looking for. Now, how much you risk is going to depend on you. Usually what I'll do if I take the breakout, I'll wait for the pullback for an add. And as I'm adding, I'm adjusting my stop. So let's say, for example, I took this breakout. I took my first entry here, but I don't go full size. I'm taking maybe half, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5. Live, I'm actually taking 1/10 of my risk because this is a smaller account. So I'll enter here with a very small entry, waiting for the pullback, adding to the trade here. And once I've added here, so maybe my stop was way down there with the first entry. With that pullback, I'm adding and I'm adjusting my stop here. I'm risking the same dollar amount, but I'm adding shares. And then as we're pushing up, maybe we've reached here and I add again, then my stop moves higher to this prior low. So as the trade moves in my favor, I'm adjusting the stop to risk the same dollar risk. And then if I get to a point where I see, okay, I could add, but I'm going to mess up my stop, I'm going to have to put it too high, then I don't add to the trade, ideally. Of course, sometimes I make mistakes, but that is it. All right, let's look at the Nasdaq again because the ES is looking much more constructive than the Nasdaq. So this first area here, this first pocket of resistance is usually where you might want to start taking profits. That pocket right here. So we're gonna see, can we blast through there or not? It's gonna be, I think we could probably get another push, so we're gonna wait. I'll adjust this take profit maybe a little bit, higher because I want to get my first. I usually call it the payroll. I want to get paid for the trade, so I know I'm in profit, and then I'll adjust my stop to either break even or smaller risk for a runner. Right now, the fact that we're testing this area and we haven't blasted through is not very convincing because remember, we're in a long on oil, right? And as oil pushes up, see, our long is working pretty well. The more this trade works, the less the Nasdaq trade is going to work. So I want to keep that in mind. So we're basically counter trading. We have two trades on, and one is acting opposite to the other. Where is it? Nasdaq. Yeah, so that's not a good sign on the Nasdaq. Probably should have taken some profit here. And sometimes you want to lighten up the position. This is not, the fact that oil is blasting through is not really convincing for me. So I'm going to take some off the table here. Because this might just be the short entry I was looking for. You know what, guys? I'm going to flip short. I'm going to flip short just because oil is pushing higher. Going to take a tight stop here, right above this prior resistance. We're short the Nasdaq. We're long oil. Harris Jakar saying, am I an intraday trader? Yes, I'm mostly an intraday trader. I'm gradually getting into swing trading because that's where the big money is at. But I'm not very patient, so swing trading has been challenging for me. But yeah, I'm looking to gradually be more of a swing trader, holding positions over, a couple of days, because that's when you can really print money. So we'll see. I flipped short because oil is pushing higher, so hopefully we get a push to the downside. And what would be great is if oil could just blast to the upside while equities push lower. But buyers are really trying to hold the line. We are at a prior support level. So for example, if I go here, right now, this 50% is where, we found resistance. Resistance turns into support. So hopefully we could lose that and continue to push lower. We'll see. Let's just keep this open for you guys right here. A little bit challenging on the NQ today. Just because oil is affecting our bias. No problem. Thanks, Hector, for letting me know that oil was going. Yes, I could see it. We're in the trade. Where is it? Oil. There we go. So our trade, as a matter of fact, our trade is working well, heading towards our TP there at 102. But that trade, I might want to just hold long term. This might turn into a swing trade. So I'm just going to hold this trade and see what happens. Because honestly, if oil decides to really take off, let's just look at this on a higher time frame. And that will happen sometimes. You'll have a trade on that looks good longer term. I mean, this is looking, let me just leave this here. I don't have a real take profit yet, but look at the hourlies. I mean, this is looking great. And if oil pushes higher, then equities are going to go lower. I just want to see what happens at that area, right? So when we reach, so we curled. When we reach this, so I would say maybe the 102s, if we reach it, of course, I want to see what happens. And then there I'll determine, do I hold this longer term or not? Because if we blast through here, then the next target is this area here around those 103s, right? And then if some news breaks out or whatever, then, well, who knows? You say don't really like to see lower highs, prefer higher lows. Okay. Tharva. Oil hesitating. And we might be curling back up on the NQ. I'm giving this one more chance, like one more candle, and then I'm getting out. Because I expected a flush after this candle. If not, then we're curling back up. Yep. Let's give it a little bit more time. Because we're still above the point of control. We're still above VWAP. So this is still bullish. But I don't want to flip this again. So we'll be break even on this trade. If we don't get the flush. Like I wanted sellers to be more aggressive. Like we got that move up, and then I wanted this to be like, okay, we're flushing, we're going to VWAP, we're testing here, and then we're continuing lower to aim for this. If that's not what's happening, well, what we might get is if it's really, if it's really bearish, we might get a push, an attempt here at that little gap that we have, and then the push lower. So we'll see. Or maybe I just hold until my stop, but decisions on the fly. Decisions on the fly. Okay, G Wakisa saying, how do you start futures trading? Well, you can first of all go to the Fivers Futures, buy an account, pick the account that you like. And then I would recommend you start trading the ES because that's where you can control your risk better. Man, do I want to flip this position? Come on, shorts, push this lower, let oil blast to the upside. Yeah, they're holding oil down and they're trying to push equities higher. Take a look at something really quickly. Yeah, the buyers are really trying to hold NQ. Give me 1 second, guys. We want them to flush. That's it. Let's go, guys. Let's get it. Yeah, Jiwaki-sa, I think you should, you can get an account, but before you get the account, try to understand futures. So the leverage, if you're used to CFDs, the leverage is going to be higher than CFDs. You're going to be risking more per point. Or you can make more profit as well, but that's one thing you need to be aware of. Yeah, this point of control is really acting as support here. All right, I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna, respect the stop. And if it stops us out, it stops us out. We're gonna risk exactly 50 points. Because the idea is what? The idea is if the shorts are not able to, if the longs are not able to hold, the next critical area would be, okay, they shorted right here around 29,645, which is where they shorted it before. So I'm gonna hold that to a full stop. If not, then hopefully they can push it lower because oil is still looking positive. And the only thing that has me short here, if not, I would be holding this long, is the fact that oil is pushing higher. And it's pushing higher decisively. So man. All right. They're pushing it higher and they're pushing oil lower. Do we want to flip this? It's not a great entry, though. We had a much better entry there. Yeah, this is going to blast to the upside, I think. Let's look at this higher time frame. $15. It's looking bullish on the 15. They're trying to hold it down. Yep, this is bullish. Let's see what happens here. This is the last area where shorts might enter. If not, then it's going to blast through and go to the upside. But the longs are really trying to hold this. And then they're pushing oil lower. We're above the point of control. I am definitely wrong on this one. All right, we're getting out. Let's see. So too late to re-enter on this one. Let's see on the ES what's going on. Okay, we still have time to enter on the ES. Risking the prior lows. It's a little late on the ES as well. Let's look at oil. You know what would suck is if they just tested those highs and then they're going to push it lower. If that was a double top, that would be funny. All right, we're blasting higher. That means our long thesis was correct. And this was an area where we could add. I have to say oil had me second guessing a lot. Let's look at the oil trade. Where is it? So we're still green on the oil trade. But that trade had me second guessing myself a lot. So we'll see. I'm going to let this one is a longer term trade that I want to hold, because that doesn't mean we can't continue to push higher. So I'm going to hold that one for at least the rest of the day. And I'm going to see NQ run without me, even though we were in the pretty decent spot right here. And this was where we probably could have added. And then the profit targets were right here and up there. So we'll see what happens. And then we're in the ES. So this one is looking constructive. We'll see if we can catch, maybe a test of this high or a little bit higher. We got a good run on the ES yesterday. So let's see if we can get another one. What's up, guys? Let me know. Did you catch any trades? I know some of you caught the Nasdaq. Some of you caught a gold setup. Actually, I didn't look at gold again. Let's look at gold again. Look at gold. Man, gold is never easy. Look at this. Gold is never easy for me. Let me switch to... All right, so what we talked about is happening on the Nasdaq this morning. That's what we had talked about for the NQ. Fortunately, we didn't hold after this pullback, but that was where the second leg started. Let's look at gold. We talked about how, there you go. We talked about how you could tap in, pull back, continue higher. But I don't know, man. This is not an easy trade for me. And then here we could possibly, if we continue to push higher, go test this level. The problem with gold, and the problem for me with gold, is that before we reach this level, so we went here, we pulled back, we pushed higher, we pulled back again. We might go test here, we might go test again all the way down to here before we break before we break higher. That's my issue with gold. It'll consolidate a lot before it gives you the move. So it's really hard to time gold trades. But hey, when they do happen, they happen, and they happen cleanly, and then they just take off. So we'll see. All right, we got Colin Rainwhite that caught the open on the NQ. Awesome, man. Good job there. Good job, good job, good job. Harris Jakar said he grabbed the 1 hour liquidity sweep. Let's see the hourly on gold. Nice. So you got it there. You got it at that level. So that's a nice entry there. Awesome. I don't know how many points you captured or if you're in this trade, but that's good. I think gold is probably better to trade. I know a lot of people trade gold intraday, but gold is interesting when you swing trade it, or if you're looking for, you know, multi-hour setups. But the open on an NQ was a blast, literally and figuratively. So that push here higher was awesome. Caught that one also on the personal account. And then we caught the opening drive on the ES live. So where's the ES? Pushing higher, looking good. So we caught this move right here. Whoa. We caught it from the pullback all the way up to the first test of the high, which was a nice little trade here. And then we're looking to catch the rest. So for people who are asking how to trade the opening range, this is like that's why I'm saying the ES is probably the best one for beginners, because look at how clean these setups were on the ES, right? This is your opening range, and then we caught this one a little late, but I have faith that we'll go test those prior highs. That's why I'm just, you know, holding this. And then your risk should probably be the prior low here. So you risk about 10 points, but I'm okay risking all the way here, because if we retest lower here, I'll add to the position. But yeah, this is super clean. Look at how you form the opening range, you test the high, you pull back to the 50% of the range. You had two opportunities, one here, to enter that area. We entered the prior one here. Then you take off out of the range, you test the upper end of the range, which confirms that you're really bullish. You could have entered anywhere in this zone. We entered a little bit late, but we enter here. Then now you're at the 50%. So let's say you entered here. This is your first area where you could take profits. And then you can blast up there, test this area, right? We might test this area here, pull back to here, and then you can probably get even more continuation to the upside. We'll see what happens, but the ES is looking super clean here for anybody who's asking. So Jiwakisa, your best bet if you're going to start trading futures is to start on the ES, start small, trade the micros, right? The MES, not the ES. And this will look good for you, man. This will be your best instrument to start with. And soon we'll have some courses and stuff for beginners on how to trade and how to start trading futures with a lot of setups. So I trade the opening range live a lot, but there's a lot of other ways to trade these assets. I trade them other ways as well. So for example, right this morning, the trade we took was a trend reversal setup. So that's another way you can find setups. Some people use indicators, RSI, etc. We're gonna have a lot of good stuff for you coming soon on the channel. But Jiwa your best bet is to start with the ES and go from there. Start small, don't risk a lot. Start with 1, 2 contracts, and then gradually you can scale up over time and as your account is in profit. So our ES trade is looking good so far. We're pushing higher. We'll see if we can reach these highs, maybe take some off the table here, or wait for a pullback and add to this trade. Justin saying just listen to Boxy Dave dissect and draw boxes. Well, we do our best. We do what we can. But yeah, your easy setup. I'm just gonna give you a quick easy setup that shows up every day, and we show it on stream. I'm gonna let this do what it does, but I'm gonna show you the easiest setup you could take. All right, we're gonna do step 1, step 2, step 3. So this is gonna be step 1. Well, let's make this wider. Let's put this here. I'm going to show you the easiest setups you could take on once you start trading, and they happen every day. So you're going to have at least 1 or 2 chances to trade this every day. You trade the ES, you wait for this to happen. You wait for the opening range to happen. So for price to form a range, you measure that range, and then you're looking for, if you're going long, you are waiting for price to blast over this, right? And then oscillate higher, hopefully. So that's your first setup, where you just enter here. So you enter right here. Whoa. You enter right here. You put your stop below here, and then you're targeting the same distance, right? So if this is your distance, you're targeting the same distance there. That's a 1-to-1 trade. You won't get it all the time, but you could get it. And then what would pay you off better is you actually do reverse risk reward, where you're targeting 0.5 to 1. It's going to have a higher win rate. So that all depends on you. That's the first setup. Second setup, the one I prefer to take, is you form your opening range, you blast out of there, you pull back, and on that pullback, you enter and you aim for the same distance, right? Third setup is you have the halfway point. So you go there, you form your range, you blast out of there, and then you pull back and you enter the halfway point there, and you're targeting the halfway point to the upside. So a halfway point would be right here, and that's where you enter. Now, how do you know when to enter? Well, a few things come into play, and I'm going to show you live. Let's get this out of the way. You want to be looking at 2 things. You want to be looking at your candles, and you want to be looking at your volume, right? So let's look at today, where the setup happened right there. And then we'll look at it on the Nasdaq as well, because it happened on the Nasdaq. What's going on there? Well, we formed the range, we got the high, and then we're pulling back. As we're pulling back here, look at the volume right here. As we're pulling back, you see the volume is also pulling back, right? Volume is decreasing. It's not increasing on the downside. What does that mean? That means, like, well, people are getting out slowly. It's a slow, controlled move. Now, as we're pulling back, you get a flush. And I told you guys what I want to see. And unfortunately, I was looking at the NQ because I was obsessed on taking an NQ trade today. You get that flush, that wick lower, and an increase in volume. As you get that increase in volume, it tells you, okay, everybody's running into the store to go buy. And then you wait for the next candle. You want to see somewhat of an increase in volume as well, with an engulfing candle. As you see the engulfing candle, you could just enter, like I would do because I'm used to seeing it, or you wait for the close and you enter on the close or the opening of the next candle. So you would enter right here. Whoa, sorry. Come on. You would enter right here. Ah, come on, arrow. You would enter right here on this candle. You're risking that low because if it's really bullish, it's not going to go back to this, right? You enter this low and you're at the 50%, so you're targeting the next 50%. You're targeting this here, this area, right? So that's it. Same scenario. If you didn't have time to enter here, that's fine. You wait, you don't FOMO. You could have probably added or entered here, but you wait for the breakout and the pullback. What happens here? Well, you get the pullback. Guess what? Look at this. Look at the volume here. You get the flush. It's not as clean and clear as here, but you get a flush of the candle here. You see that this holds. It's not engulfed yet, so you wait, you wait, you wait. Boom, you get the engulfing candle here. So you could have probably entered here. Now I know you're gonna panic once it starts pulling back here, but that's not a problem. Your risk is calculated. If you're entering here, you're risking again the halfway point of the range. So you're risking either this low or this low. And then you're waiting for this to move up. Well, guess what? Look at what's happening here. I entered late. I entered right here, super late, but I was looking at the NQ, and I'll look at one asset for it to tell me, okay, what can the other asset do? What happened on the NQ? We were late, right? We would have been very late. So I didn't want to enter on the NQ. We entered on the ES because it was easier for me to manage my risk. Entered on the ES, and we're getting the push up. Right now, this is the area where you want to be taking profits. But I'm being cocky today. I'm thinking we could probably go and test higher liquidity levels. Why am I thinking we could test higher liquidity levels? Let me show you the volume profile. Look at how clean this is. This is what we talked about before. Let me just drag this. Look at this. This is what we talked about before the open. This is super clean, guys. Of course, it's clean after the fact. It didn't look super clean when I was trying to short and I was looking at oil, but looking good so far. Let me look at oil. Oil definitely pulling back a lot, so affecting our trade right now, but we'll leave it. Our stop is way down there, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, ES. So this is, in my opinion, a possible short squeeze. That's why I'm looking for liquidity grabs higher. I'm looking for liquidity grabs above this level, right? I think there's liquidity sitting here. Let me look left. Do we have? Yeah, there's nothing. There's no reference, right? So this could just continue to run. Why? Because people keep thinking, like I was thinking, and I have my own bias here. People keep thinking, man, we're due for a pullback. We're due for a pullback. Well, guess what? When everybody thinks we're due for a pullback, the pullback is not going to happen. Shorts are going to keep getting run over, right? Just like I was run over on the NQ, and then we keep pushing higher. So I'm going to hold this. Guess what? Because we could possibly get a continuation. We have a whole other standard deviation. I could even aim for this halfway point there. That would be 25 points. If I measure from here to here, this is 36 points. The ES moves on average about 40, 50 points. 40 points is here. 50 points would be right here, right? So let's look at yesterday. How much did we move yesterday? Yesterday from open, from 9, so that's about 10 o'clock, all the way to, that's about 2 o'clock. That's 82 points that we moved yesterday. So there is room. I'm not in a hurry to get out of this trade. I'm not saying we're going to move 80 points again, but I mean, even if we get a deep pullback, even if we do this, we pull back here or we pull back here, that's where I could add. And then if the add really makes sense, I'm going to pile into this trade to capture the rest, because that would be a super clean entry. So we're holding this, and then we're trying to capture at least 25 points or more. So we're going to let this one run. Tuba saying looking good, looking good. Yeah, we're looking good on the ES trade. The CL, the oil trade, is making us struggle. It started to look good, but it's changed yet. So I mean, it's changed as of now, but this might be, you know, a little pullback, and then we revert back to the upside. We'll see. Risk is under control, so we're leaving this here. And then let's look at the ES. ES is recovering, so we're hedged. We're good. All righty, guys. And then, by the way, this is all, you know, for longs, but basically, if you want to take shorts, it's the same thing, but just in reverse, right? So if you're taking shorts, you're doing the same thing, but just to the downside. So for example, your range would be this, and then you're looking for, you know, blasting through here, pull back, continuation to the downside. Or range is formed, we go to the 50%, we continue to the downside. That's an easy setup that you could take every day. Now, you can make it a lot more complicated. When I'm not trading live, I'm looking at other things to determine, you know, am I going to add more or not? So I'm looking at things like, for example, market internals. So I'm looking at the VIX. Where is the VIX situated? I'm looking at advanced decline. I'm looking at sometimes the tick chart. I'm looking at the volt ratio. You know, volt ratio is looking awesome here. Up volume minus down volume. Volt ratio is looking great for longs. Tick chart is ticking green. That's the whole stock market ticking green. Advanced decline, that means that there's more assets advancing versus declining. And then the VIX is below 20, which is good for longs. That's the volatility, the S&P 500 volatility index. And then sometimes I'll be looking at the Mag 7 where we're trading. Nvidia is looking good. Apple is trying to recover. Tesla trying to recover. Microsoft blasting. Amazon is not really helping us. Meta is good as well. Google trying to recover as well. So far looking good all around here. I didn't look at Broadcom. Broadcom looking good. And then I'll look at the other. Let's look at the dollar. Look at the dollar blasting up. Man, dollar's strong here. Let's put this thing side by side. Dollar strong. Dollar's very strong. Dollar might be affecting us a little bit. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, the fact that the dollar is so strong is making me think that we might be at an area where profit needs to be taken. All right, well, I'm going to close this position. ES, we just scored 10 points on the ES. The NQ is pulling back. You see, guys, textbook. Look at the man. I'm kind of mad at myself for not holding this long because this was such a clean trade. We had the pullback. Right? We could have this is the 50% here. Same thing. You see huge increase in volume, engulfing candle, and look at how this one engulfed the prior one here. So this was your possible first entry, but guess what? Remember I said this might be a fake out and we might need to wait for the second pullback. Well, we waited for the second pullback. I was looking at oil too much. Didn't pile in here, but this is where I should have piled in. And then we went, I said, okay, we need to watch this level. This is what happened. We got a pullback. That could have been an add right above the opening range. We went and tested the other 50% of the opening range, and now we're pulling back. So now the question is, come on, what is going on? All right. So now the question is, okay, can we follow through, right? Are we going to flip these prior levels here? So let me put this a little bit lower. Are we going to flip these prior levels here, or do we need a deeper pullback? So as we went up, do we need a deeper pullback here into this prior pocket in order to go and continue to blast to the upside? So we'll see if that happens, but it is 11 o'clock, guys. It has been a pleasure. We got 2 wins, 1 break even, and let me see. My oil trade is probably red. Yeah, looks like we're going to get stopped out of oil, but that's fine. I'll be looking for another setup to continue on the NQ. But remember, guys, I will be live this Friday with Trade the Pool and the Fivers Forex. We're having this big event, right? Let me show you on the channel. Give me 1 second. I'm going to show you the Fivers Futures channel, what we'll have going on for you. We're going to talk about the change happening at the Fed. So I'll be live tomorrow. Hopefully we could find some cool setups. I'll be live with LJ, who is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to macro. But sign up for this event tomorrow. Well, you don't have to sign up. You just have to hit the notification bell, right? But this is the event I'm talking about tomorrow. New Fed era begins. We're going to be talking about Kevin Warsh that's taken over from Jerome Powell, how that's going to affect the market, what you could be looking at, what you could be looking for when it comes to setups. Last time there was a Passover, we saw a major sell-off in the equities. So we want to see, is that going to happen again? And yeah, I hope to see all of you or most of you tomorrow. Remember to like the stream. It's always a pleasure to be streaming and taking those trades live with you guys. It's actually making me a better trader. So have a great rest of your day. I hope you're green. And if you're not green, I hope you learned something. And I will see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. Take care, guys.